In the beginning there were two realms, Shamayim, where the superior celestial beings dwelled in light and glory, and Sheol, where the forsaken or dejected beings were sentenced to languish in darkness and misery. Chapter 1. It's safe to open your eyes now. My stomach dropped in churning anxiety as the thick, dark embrace of the archangel's wings opened and spread away from me. Light slashed through my eyelids, and I flinched, but I did not open my eyes. I had trouble breathing, and my pulse shuddered in my throat, terrified and uneasy. It's not heaven, I reminded myself. You don't need to be afraid. No, of course it wasn't heaven. I would have been incinerated the moment I stepped foot onto that celestial plane. This was something else, a cross between the mortal world and celestial ground, a place for those waiting for heaven's approval to enter. But I was not waiting for heaven. Heaven would never approve of me. I still couldn't believe I was here, and I still wasn't sure why. Choice is a double-edged sword. One might choose freedom only to find the choice leads to misery and captivity. Or one might choose to sacrifice what they had in hopes of something more. Such was my case. Archangel Barachiel's wings fluttered near my face, the softness of the air stroking my flaming cheeks. "Jezbatasat," he said, his voice soft like falling rain, yet holding a strain of command. "Open your eyes." The word whispered around me, my name, the lexicology that forever branded me a daughter of hell. I swallowed hard and pried my lids open. The white light of purity and holiness did not assault me or burn me to cinders as I feared it would, and my shoulders relaxed slightly. "Welcome to the Guardian Angel Academy at Yishuv," he said. I looked at him as his golden wings folded and withdrew into his body, leaving him looking as common as the wingless men of the damned I'd witnessed in the depths of Sheol, which was my home, not heaven. "We are not in heaven," he said, and I flinched. Were the rumors true? Could angels read the thoughts of lesser beings? "I know that," I snapped, "and you should learn respect for privacy." But my words lacked any venom. I'd made the choice to come here, and, in truth, I was terrified. While his motives remained questionable, the Archangel had shown kindness to me. I didn't want to leave the protective embrace of his wings. Archangel Barachiel walked in front of me without a backward glance, expecting me to follow. His dark brown hair was cut short, and his face held no lines. He did not look any older than a 30-year-old mortal. He wore a dark suit and concealed his wings, giving no indication of his status. But I knew he was a master at GAA, at Yishuv, Guardian Angel Academy. I could hardly think the words to myself. I was the newest enrolled student at GAA, but there was no hiding what I really was. In a few brief moments, every student at the academy would know. And they would hate me. "Where are we?" I asked. "Are we still in Gehenna?" Gehenna was an in-between land, a spiritual realm where the newly dead souls gathered to acclimate to their new status before moving on to a more permanent destination. It was a neutral plane, and I'd been deposited there from Sheol so Barachiel could retrieve me. He had too much light to descend to Sheol. But this place felt too solid to be Gehenna. "This is Arcadia. It's a hidden realm within Earth itself, a land of peace and harmony that can only be reached by those who know the way. All 3 campuses are here, though Yishuv is the biggest. You will only see the other 2 if you show talents that lead to their specialties." Peace? Harmony? Words foreign to my being. Goosebumps popped up over my whole body, and I shuddered, feeling the invasion of righteousness to my soul. "Where's the campus?" I asked, drudging the words up from somewhere. "In front of us. We will arrive when you are ready." I nodded. I would not be able to return to Sheol until I knew the location well enough to travel between the 2. I would stay put until then, just to make sure I didn't get lost. Hell would freeze over before I'd ask an angel for help. An angel. Hatred for the celestial beings, the ones who placed themselves at a higher standard and thought they were superior to my kind, bubbled up in my chest. How would I tolerate going to school with them, learning their ways, sharing a room with one of them? I glanced at Barakiel, wondering if he heard my thoughts. He said nothing. Perhaps because he knew they would hate me as much as I hated them, but it would be one of me against hundreds of them. Do not be afraid. So, he was listening. I knew it. They will not accept me. They will know what I am. He stopped and looked back at me, his eyes trailing over the black chains crisscrossing my exposed flesh, wrapping around my arms and claiming me. Hasetan had relinquished me to the academy so I could become informed enough to make my choice. But he had not relinquished the chains that bound me to Sheol. They branded my skin, burying themselves into my body like a sentient tattoo. I tugged on my dark hair, pulling it over my shoulder, but I couldn't conceal the chains. Learning acceptance and forgiveness is part of the curriculum at GAA. You will make a fine candidate for practicing what we preach. Just what I hoped, I said sarcastically, but he only smiled. He continued walking, and I rolled my eyes before trailing after. The archangels and master instructors had already graduated from GAA. Supposedly, they had mastered their baser emotions, and it would take much more than the attitude of a Forsaken to rile him up. We walked for an eternity through rolling green hills and fields of purple grain and deep valleys with winding rivers. Would he let me wander forever? Peace and harmony weren't so bad. I could live out the rest of my damned forever here. Jezbatasat, he said, interrupting my reflections. It's time. I stopped walking and steeled myself for my first glimpse of Guardian Angel Academy and GAA's first glimpse of me. Just Jez, I said softly. Tell them my name is Jez. He nodded, and I sucked in a breath. The horizon wavered, trembled, and then the snow-capped mountains in the distance became obscured by tall, spherical buildings. I caught my breath in spite of my determination to remain aloof. I'd never seen structures like this in the land of fire and brimstone. One twisted up so high, the final spiral disappeared into the clouds. Others appeared as medieval castles, squatting possessively over the perfect grass. This is a school? I said in awe. This is your school, he said, as long as you wish it to be. I saw students now, wandering the grounds dressed in dark slacks and skirts. Black and white wings jutted out from their button-up shirts, folded tight against their bodies or spread wide like an eagle's as they milled about, school books in hands. I had not seen adolescent angels before. All of the mortals who died in their adolescence went to Gehenna and were offered the location of their choice to finish out their learning. If they chose to descend to the dark world, they lost their youthful appearance and continued to age through the coming millennia. But they didn't die, because only angels of light were allowed to be young. The injustice burned through my veins, but I swallowed it back, wishing to mask my feelings from Barakiel. The time for retribution was not yet at hand, but it would come, and I would bring it. A chime sounded, ringing out over the courtyard, and the students turned toward it. One by one, most of the black-winged angels stepped into the shortest building on the grounds, a long, rectangular edifice that looked out of place among the sweeping, rounded structures. The white wings dispersed as well, heading into various buildings. Come, that is your cue. I'm not sure I can. Fear gripped me, and my feet remained rooted to the spot. I looked down at my black clothing, my non-standard halter and torn skirt. My outward appearance reflected my inner self, unsure, non-conforming, and tattered. Barakiel did not move. It is your choice, but you will not regret this, Jezbatasat. His words rang with truth and promise. Was it a manipulation, or could I believe him? But I didn't really have a choice. Hasetan had warned me of the consequences of failure, and his words I could trust. I will go, I said, and I moved my feet forward, closing the distance between myself and the building of my own accord. Baracchio led me through a side door and to a seat tucked at the back of the massive hall. I sat with Baracchio as a wingless female with almond-shaped eyes and jet-black hair in a white business suit stepped onto the stage. "Welcome, angelings," she said, her face wreathed in a dazzling light as she smiled. I squinted against it, fearing I'd go blind. "I'm Archangel Salafiel. I coordinate new student orientation. I'm also the Master for Human Relations, a class you will all be required to take in your second year. I know there is so much new information for you, but let me start by saying, I'm sorry you find yourselves here." For one brief moment, I thought she spoke directly to me, and then I remembered every new student was here because they'd recently died. I wasn't the only one in a new place. "I know it's a shock," she went on. "I'm here to help you adjust, and we will also have classes geared toward teaching you what you need to know to move forward in this life. We've tailored the school to be a familiar environment for you, with customs and technologies like what you had on Earth." I leaned toward Baracchio and whispered, "Do the other students know about me?" He shook his head. "You are just one more new student starting your first year at the academy." A few students glanced back at us at the low murmur of his voice, and I sank lower in my seat, grateful for the darkness around us. Darkness, good for hiding. Not so much all the light that surrounded the campus and kept trying to penetrate my shield. I wrapped my hands around my arms, wishing for something to cover myself, as if not having wings wasn't bad enough. "Now, let me tell you about the goals of the school," the woman continued. "The mission of Guardian Angel Academy is to provide you with the knowledge and experience you need to minister to mortals on Earth. In doing so, you will become more equipped to join the celestial beings in heaven, or Shamayim, as we call it here, and make your final placement. But first, there are a series of tasks you must complete at the Academy. GAA is built as a 4-year program, though you may repeat a year as often as necessary to master a task. During your first and second years, you are only Guardian Apprentices, or GAs. We will be reteaching you many of the concepts and principles you learned in Shamayim before you were born, but have forgotten through mortality. You will notice that your memories start to come back, but it could be a full decade before you remember everything from your first existence." None of that applied to me. I was not created in Shamayim. I had no memories to recover. The second year are allowed to watch what goes on Earth and learn how to travel there, but you won't go to Earth until your third year. During your third year, you should be assigned to your first ward, and then you will become a Guardian in Training, or a GIT. You will be mentored and guided. You might recall the temptations you had during your mortal life. Our job as guardians is to be the protector and the guide, helping mortals make the correct decision. If it is possible, we often save them from an untimely death, though you will learn it's not always possible to do so. The fourth year is a mere formality. You will receive a new assignment, and this time you will not be mentored. Classes will continue in between your guardianship, and you will become a master in your field and perfunctory in other fields. Should you decide to continue as a guardian after you graduate from the academy, you will continue with your ward until the end of their earthly days. From there, you have choices. You can take another assignment, or you may choose another profession. Professions? Assignments? Guardians? The words swirled around me, and I grasped at their meanings, trying to clutch the intangible. Angels got to choose what they wanted to be? There were options? How could one make such a decision? There were no choices in Sheol, no consequences for me to weigh. I felt overwhelmed by the idea of making a choice for my existence. What if I chose the wrong thing? Now, a little about your field. In a moment, we will move all of you to the manifestation room. This is a room full of light and energy. Your spirit will be a magnet to these energies, and you will discover a propensity for a certain gift. That doesn't mean it's your only gift, and it might not even be your strongest. However, each of the 3 GAA campuses specializes in teaching skills for one of these gifts. Depending what you manifest, you could stay here at Yishuv, or go to the academy at Zion, or the academy at Sinai. About this time, there's always a student who wants to know what happens if they drop out of school. She smiled at the angels around me, but they looked as nervous as I felt, too uneasy to return her warm expression. You'll soon learn that everything is about choice here. If you do not wish to continue at GAA, you are free to go. We'll show you your options and let you choose what you do next with your life. I snorted and rolled my eyes, sinking lower in my seat. Yes, heaven was all about choice. The choice to choose them or choose eternal damnation. I could just imagine what the options would be for any student who tried to leave the academy early. However, most of you will want to stay. The academy is a spiritually fulfilling and emotionally connecting place. You'll make friendships here that will last you throughout eternity. You'll come to understand yourself and the universe around you in ways you didn't know possible. Oh, one last thing. She looked out at everyone, and suddenly, from behind her back, golden wings sprouted. A murmur rose up from the students, and even I had to admit they were impressive. The tips of the wings sparked and glowed, and she opened and closed them for effect. I'm sure you've all noticed your new wings. She'd broken the solemnity, the fear that paralyzed them. Some titters and chuckles echoed from the seats. Each of you has a set of black wings, symbolic of your decision to follow the decree from Shamayim and go to Earth. When you finish your 2nd year and become a GIT, you'll receive a set of white wings. Your assignment and other humans won't see these wings, and once you graduate from the academy, you can make your wings retract at will. The white wings will be your last set. Though you have these beautiful wings, let me remind you of one thing. Flying is not allowed on campus, except at the skyball pitch. We are not owls to spend our time flapping about. She smiled to take any sting from her words, and others laughed with her. A few of you, 1, maybe 2, may end up becoming one of the heavenly hosts. You will understand why as you finish your education. I understood why, and my heathen ichor boiled in my veins. Because war was an eventuality. Sheol knew it. Apparently heaven did too. I immediately banished the thoughts. The angel beside me could invade my mind, and I needed this guarded and private. If you feel the call to join the heavenly army, if you have a desire to serve in such a capacity, please let us know. After you manifest today, a master from your particular campus will find you and take you home. This campus, the Academy at Yishuv, is home for all Empatia angels. The Academy at Zion is for the Metamorphosas. And the Academy at Sinai is for the Tellies. Don't worry if none of those terms mean anything to you. By the end of today, you'll understand. Your campus is your home, and the angels you meet today are your new family. You will take your meals with them, have classes with them, spar with them, and room with them. They will not take the place of the familial bonds you had with your mortal family, but they will fill a spot you didn't know was empty. So get to know your fellow angels and don't be afraid to open up to them. I studied this woman as she spoke, noting the other angels standing silent guard behind her. Their expressions were calm and benevolent, yet somehow the sight of the 6 of them, endowed with heavenly power, sent chills down my spine. They could destroy me in a matter of moments, They could tear me apart limb by limb until every atom that made up my essence was scattered to the universe. It had been done before. Chapter 2. The woman finished speaking, and the lights went on. I shrank even lower and considered crawling out along the floor. I thought they would notice me, but the students did not disperse at once. They formed groups of 3 or 4 and talked, their faces glowing, their mouths turning upward in smiles. How did they seem to know each other? Weren't we all first years? They've been trickling in from Gehenna for several weeks, Barakiel said, and I scowled. The students gather here until they manifest and are sent to their official campus. First years cling to each other. You're all in this together. No, we're not, I breathed, and then I winced. I shouldn't have said that out loud. He stepped into the aisle. Come, Jez. I darted to the Archangel's side. I wished he would pull those massive wings out again and shield me from view. He crossed the grass courtyard quickly and led me into an X-shaped building with arching entryways. He pulled open a heavy door, and we stepped into a hallway with marbled flooring. The air inside felt slightly cooler than outside, but without the mild breeze. This is so modern, I said, thinking of the grand palaces I'd witnessed on Earth. I expected something more ancient and less comfortable. GAA looks and feels this way because it is what the students of this generation are familiar with. It has looked and felt very different in times past. He pushed on a door in the hallway and ushered me into a room. A woman turned from where she stood, examining the top of a desk, and I recognized her as the one who had spoken to us moments before in the auditorium. Ah, she came toward me, a welcoming smile on her face. Jezbatasat, we are honored to have you here. I examined her closer now. She stood regal and tall, even with her golden wings tucked out of sight. If I had wings like that, I would never hide them. But I had no wings, none at all, not even the black wings of a first year. Thank you for meeting us, Barakiel said. I know you prefer to be present during the manifestations. Remiel and Sabriel are both present, as well as the elder masters from the other academies. They can handle it just as well. She faced me, her expression kind. Welcome to Yishuv. Her kindness was not unexpected, but I did not know how to respond. I understood fear and formality, not gentleness. I inclined my head. Yes, my liege. She gave a soft laugh. I can see it will be an interesting journey for all of us. I am Archangel Salafiel, Master of the Human Relations class. Another Archangel? But I'd known that after I saw her golden wings. Salafiel, Archangel Barakiel said, could you find something for Jez to wear? Salafiel looked me over, her eyes falling on the dark tattoos embracing my arms. Of course. She opened a drawer of her desk and dug around for a moment before pulling out a long-sleeved jacket made of some kind of animal skin. Will this do? I took it from her, fingering the supple black material, surprised and pleased she hadn't gone for a different color. I cannot keep myself from asking, you keep a supply of these in your desk? Her eyes sparkled. Manipulating material to produce what you need and when you need it is a skill you will learn also. I was definitely intrigued. This was not a skill available to the Forsaken in Sheol. This was probably yet another reason Hasatan wanted me to come here. I slid my arms into the jacket, marveling at how the material fit to my skin, as if it were made for me. Perhaps it had been. I exhaled, my shoulders relaxing. With the tattoos covered, I might not stick out quite as much. It's time to meet the other new students, Salafiel said. Like you, those just arriving are unsure of where they are and why. They do not have any knowledge beyond their recent deaths and Earth life. That certainly encouraged me. I knew more than these new recruits did. To begin with, I'll take you to the manifestation room, and you'll be separated by your powers. I don't have any powers, I began, but Celestial cut me off with a shake of her head. You don't know your powers yet, and neither do they. You will be on equal footing. I'm a Forsaken, I said, annoyed she seemed to have forgotten. I'm not gifted like they are. I'm not endowed with light. The only reason I can tolerate being here is because I jerked my head at Archangel Baracule, is shielding me with his light. The two of them exchanged a look I couldn't decipher, but didn't like. Elder Master Baracule has reason to believe there is light in you. It's just been concealed by darkness for so long, you don't know it's there. It's not, I retorted, the anger rising in me again. Wait, had she said Elder Master? Calm down, Celestial said, reaching for me. Don't touch her, Baracule warned, intercepting her hand. It is forbidden. Archangel Celestial withdrew, confusion flickering on her face. Surely she knew this. The law forbidding touch between spiritual beings was created long before I was. She gave me a soft smile, keeping her hands where they belonged. You will not be as out of place here as you fear. I fear nothing, I said, but it was a bold-faced lie, and my face flamed. These mind readers would know it. Do they all have wings? I demanded, turning to another painful topic. Because that was the biggest thing. I couldn't hide my lack of wings. They all have their first set of wings, yes, Celestial said. But none of them know how to use them, and many of them will spend the first few weeks trying to hide them. I had never wanted wings as desperately as I did now. The Fallen had wings before they came to Sheol, but their wings were torn from them when they fell, leaving only shadow wings in their place. But the Forsaken, and others like me who had never gone to Earth to receive a mortal body, had no wings. And we never would, because the time to make the choice to go to Earth had passed. Come this way, Celestial said. Baracule stopped her before we exited. Jez, remember, you are not to go to Shema, he warned. The amount of light in that room will be too much for you. I nodded. I hadn't planned on going anywhere that contained a concentration of light anyway. But that led me to a question I had. How do you keep so much light in Arcadia? I asked. I knew it was just another dimension of Earth, and Earth could not retain light. How do you keep other demons out? I tried hard not to flinch at the word, as I was considered a demon. We have a generator. It receives light directly from Shamayim and maintains a shield around the campus, much as I'm using my light to shield you from the light of Arcadia, except in reverse. A shield within a shield? So much to wrap my mind around. And we keep the location of Arcadia, and the campuses in particular, a carefully guarded secret, Celestial added. Baracule went one way, and Celestial guided me from the room. We walked down the corridor and out a door at the back of the building. Did you say you called him Elder Master? I said, trying to sound bold, even though speaking to her took tremendous courage. Baracule is not only an archangel, she said, crossing a dirt path and leading me to another large building, this one with a tall, arched roof. He's the Elder Master of the Academy at Yishuv. I should have known. As if being an archangel wasn't enough, he had the most power of all the master angels at this campus. Here's the manifestation hall, she said, coming to a stop. It's also the greenhouse. I tilted my head to examine the building. She opened the door, and I kept my head back as we entered, taking in the tall ceiling full of large windows curving over us. Though tall enough for multiple stories, it only contained one. Hundreds of other adolescents crowded the room, looking a lot like me in their mortal clothing. A few glanced at me, but not with any more curiosity than they eyed each other. Join them, Celestial whispered, inclining her head toward the group. You are one of them. I moved closer, my eyes captivated by the black wings sprouting from the shoulder blades of the nearest girl. I looked over her in her earthly apparel all the way down to the pink shoes. She saw me staring and shot a glance at her wings as well. "I keep forgetting they're there," she said in a hushed voice. Leaning toward me, she said, "Did you hide yours under your jacket? I tried to pull my shirt over them, but they won't fit." She blinked, blue eyes wide. "I guess we're dead. One second I was cruising in the car with my boyfriend, and the next I was in... what did they call that place? The waiting place?" "Gehenna," I supplied. "Yeah, I was there being told all kinds of crazy stuff." I nodded. Yeah, the word stuck to my tongue. Communicating with other beings wasn't something I had much experience with, not unless I was tempting them to commit a sin. She offered a fragile smile. "I'm Kenzie. At least, I was. They told me I have a different name here. I can't remember it." Her smile wobbled and liquid shone in her blue eyes. I studied her. She seemed distraught. That never bothered me before. Why did it now? "I'm sure they'll remind you." "What's your name?" "Jez." "Is that your Earth name or my real name?" She nodded. "Jez. Do you think my boyfriend's here? No one will tell me if he died also." I don't know." Her questions were making my head ache, and I didn't want to talk anymore. "Welcome, new students." Our eyes were drawn toward the front of the massive room, where Salafiel and Barachiel and several other angels stood in a line, smiling at us. While she was dressed in typical modern Earth clothing, others were dressed in loose robes or form-fitting apparel. "You may call me Master Salafiel. I know you're still accepting where you are and what this means, but let me reassure you, your life is far from over. There is so much to accomplish as a heavenly being, and many of you will find missions and journeys to fulfill in this part of your life. This is in reality your third existence, and as such, we will use that word more often. We have gathered you here in this room because it is thick with life and creative energy. Perhaps during your mortal existence, you sometimes felt like you could do more, like you could be more. You sensed a power deep within you, urging to get out, but you were restricted to the limits of a physical body in a physical realm. The energies in this room will encourage your gifts to manifest. Discovering where your talents lie will help us know what campus to assign you to. However, as you develop your potential, you may find you are better suited for a different course. If at any time any of you wish to exit GAA, we will honor your choice and discuss your options with you. While you are a student here, there are many regulations we expect you to adhere to. None of these are meant to restrict your freedom, but to keep your future choices open. When you arrive in your dormitory, you will find a bag with your school supplies on your desk. You will be given a special book called an agenda, particular to you and your needs at the academy. Study the rules, because ignorance is not an excuse for infractions. If you choose not to abide by the regulations, you also choose not to continue as a student here. Not everyone graduates, and that's okay. There are many roles in Shamayim, and many ways for you to serve in the kingdom without a formal education. Right, I sneered. Did they really think they had a choice? If they didn't adhere to the commandments of the academy, they'd join the fallen in Sheol. I personally knew hundreds of angels who had suffered this fate. Whichever campus you're assigned to, there will be a second-year student to help you learn the ropes of the academy. This student is referred to as the team lead, and they'll help you understand everything expected of you here at the academy as you transition to this new existence. You'll stick together by dorms, but begin to separate out based on your specializations, which you won't discover until later. And the academy masters will help you with your gift. Gift? The girl called Kinsey ran her hands together in nervousness, but my eyes were drawn to her wings, which fluttered and touched their tips together. Now, Master Salafiel continued, each one of you close your eyes and draw on your earthly memories. Find something or someone that represents love and light and hope to you. Think on that memory. Let it grow within you until it fills your entire being. I looked around at the other students with their eyes closed. There's no need for me to do this exercise. I had never experienced love or joy or happiness. Not that I was unhappy or discontented. I simply was. Not the case for these students. Their faces showed various emotions, from rapture to pleasure, even to tears. A shower of sparks sprouted over the head of a boy, and he opened his eyes with a gasp. Did I? One of the master angels had already descended to him, smiling and nodding. Congratulations, you are an empatia. You'll stay here at Yishuv. This is your campus. What does that mean? A girl said, looking more alarmed than excited. His gift lies with emotions. Another girl gave a cry as rose petals formed in mid-air and dropped around her feet. These are the petals from my quinceañera. How can they be here? Another angel, this one dressed in loose pants and a tight, long-sleeved shirt, stepped up to her and placed a hand on her shoulder. You're a Telly. You'll learn more about your gift at the campus at Sinai. You are able to accomplish things with your mind. I'm a master from that campus, and I'll lead you there once we've found all the other Tellys. Around me, students were discovering their powers. One boy transformed into a small dog, yipping and wagging his small tail. Metamorphosa, a woman master said, smiling at him and patting his head. You'll accompany me to the campus at Zion. I swiveled, marveling, and I noticed I wasn't the only one doing nothing. Another human boy stood a few paces from me, his eyes narrowed, peering at the excitement and wonder around us, as if it were all a trick. Yet I could see his power, even if he didn't. Darkness radiated off of him like the sun during an eclipse, brilliantly hidden and deceptively blinding. It called to me, drawing me toward him. Without even meaning to, I moved his direction. Chapter 3. His eyes lighted on me, and his head turned slightly to watch my approach. Did he see the same darkness in me? Who are you? He asked when I halted inches from him. Are you a teacher? I shook my head. No, I'm a new student, like you. Where are your wings? I stole the first lie that came to my mind, thanks to the girl called Kinsey. I hid them beneath my jacket. His lip quirked upward, amusement sparking in his eye. So, you're not any more excited to be here than I am. It wasn't a question, and I didn't deign to answer it. I stepped closer still. I can see your power. It called to me, beckoned me. It felt familiar to me in a way that was almost comforting. I closed my eyes and inhaled, and when I opened them, I saw an aura around him, a redness so dark it blended with the shadow peeling off him. Is that yours, to see other people's gifts? I shook my head. I don't know. Jez, Grubiel. An angel stepped toward us. The boy glared at the approaching angel. My name is Ryan. The angel did not miss a beat. Ryan was your earthly name. Here, you are known as Grubiel. It was your name before your birth, and you have returned to it. Kerubiel/Ryan opened his mouth, but before he could say anything more, the angel continued. I am Master Cassiel. Have you discovered your powers? No, Kerubiel/Ryan said, and the air between him and the angel darkened. I don't belong here. I have no powers. Darkness is all around you, I said before I could stop myself. Can't you see it rolling off you? I gestured at the space near him. The angel looked at me with a slight smile on his lips. That's right. Kerubiel is a shadow shade, but that's not his gift. A shadow shade? I leaned forward. What is that? Shades can create light or shadow. It's a part of their being, and they are rare. Only 1 or 2 exists in each generation. He can actually create darkness? I knew demonic angels that could create an illusion of light, or the perception of darkness. But to make it appear out of nowhere? How is that possible? What about me? I asked. Am I a shade? Cassiel studied me. You see the shadow emanating from Carubial. I nodded. What happened when you thought of one of the times in your life when you felt loved? I stared at him as if he were crazy. Didn't he know where I came from? In case he'd forgotten, I scoffed. I was never loved. Sadness crossed over Cassiel's face. You were not the first, and you won't be the last. Think of something that makes you feel comfort. I remembered the moment when I felt the darkness seeping from Carubial, that sense of familiarity. Color, I said without thinking. I saw a color around him. Cassiel's face brightened. What color? Red, and then gray. You have the gift of discernment. You are an empatia. Oh, I said, a wave of disappointment washing over me. I can see colors? Carubial snorted. Awesome power. His color had changed again, to a rusty, muddy hue. My own face warmed, surprising me by my reaction. Why should his opinion matter to me? Cassiel faced him. And you are gifted with the ability to make others feel what you feel. You are also an empatia. The boy looked like he wanted to argue, but the fight seemed to go out of him, and the colors around him faded from dark red to a muted gray, barely discernible against the black surrounding him. Cassiel pointed across the room. Barakiel is the elder master for Yishuv. Master Salafiel handles room assignments for the girls. Go tell her, and she will assign you a room. Come, Carubial, I will take you to your room. The boy didn't correct Cassiel this time, but allowed him to guide him toward a gathering group of students. Have fun coloring, Carubial called to me over his shoulder. He mocked me, but even so, I took a step in his direction, a part of me yearning to follow him, to curl up in his darkness. I shook myself and continued toward Salafiel. I would see Carubial again. The girl Kinsey was also in the group of students who gathered around Barakiel. Welcome to the Academy at Yishuv, Angels, he said. Angels. The word brought an unpleasant tingling to the back of my neck, and I ground my teeth together. No one had ever called me an angel before. I wrapped my arms around my body, cupping the elbows of my long-sleeved jacket. I wasn't one of them, and it wouldn't take long for them to figure it out. All of you are what we refer to as empatia, or empathic angels. Each of you has a gift rooted in emotion, whether you can create emotions, share emotions, feel emotions, or see emotions. That doesn't mean it's your only talent. You'll discover many others as you go through your academic learning, especially the ability to manipulate the elements. It turns out that nature is the Earth's way of expressing emotion, and so empatias are frequently skilled elementals as well. Even in the areas where you are not strong, you'll be required to take classes and become at least basically proficient. Our dorms are located to the left of the administration building. Inside your room, you'll find your school uniform. I know it will take a few days to get used to your arrival here at GAA, so put the uniform on when you feel ready. Until then, you may wear what you are comfortable with. My heart gave a little patter of relief. I could keep this jacket on, and no one would remark about it. I could even continue to pretend my wings were tucked up inside the black material. You will also find in your room your school supplies. Please familiarize yourself with your schedule and the campus. Step forward when I call your name. I will be assigning you a roommate. He consulted an open book in his hands, and I wondered how he'd already gotten the names of the empatias written within. Daniel. After a moment's pause, a boy clad in tight blue slacks and a looser shirt stepped forward. He tossed a lock of thick black hair from his face. Aramil. This one took even longer to come forward, and the boy's face was nearly as red as his hair, but he joined Daniel. I scrutinized them as they faced each other. Daniel looked a few years older than Aramil, who looked like he'd just crossed into adolescence, maybe 14 or 15. Neither seemed extremely comfortable to be here. Barakiel handed each of them a small white rectangle. You're in room 219. A map to the dormitory is on that paper, and your room number, if you forget. He turned back to us, not watching as the boys slowly walked away, shooting glances over their shoulders. But then, Barakiel had done this before. He must know they had nowhere to go except to their dorms. Iblis. No one stirred, and Barakiel's eyes scanned the group of us before landing on someone to my right. Iblis, he repeated. Oh! The girl Kinsey jolted forward. I forgot! That's my new name! Her pale skin also took on a pink tint, and a yellowish color emanated from her skin, coloring the air. I touched my own face, curious by her and Aramil's apparent physical reactions. Pink skin, red blush, yellow aura. While my body was the same now as it had been in hell, I had very little experience with emotions. There had been no need. My actions were chosen for me, and I was guided and instructed on what to do and how to act. There was no room for thought or feeling. Except the ever-present anger and resentment that surrounded everything and everyone in the lower kingdom of Sheol. The unfairness over being cast out sent my skin broiling, and I wondered if I wore the same colorful expression of those emotions on my cheeks. It's your old name, and you'll get used to it soon enough, Barakiel said to her, his tone kind as always. Jez. Something cold slithered through my veins at his almost slip, and I lifted my chin, glad he'd caught himself. My name gave away my lineage, and I'd prefer to keep that under wraps as long as I could. But also, I felt a smug reassurance as I stepped forward to stand next to Iblis/Kinsey. Even the archangels weren't perfect. Iblis/Kinsey's face had split into a smile so wide it looked painful. She reached out as if to grab my hand, but I jerked back before she could, and her smile dimmed slightly. Roommates, she said, her voice breathy. I'm so glad. At least it's someone I know. Yes, I said, clutching my hands together. Why had she tried to touch me? Didn't she know it was forbidden? Had no one told her? I glanced around at the new angels beside me with a sudden dread. Maybe none of them knew. I would have to be on my guard. You are in Building Aleph, in room 102. Barakiel handed us each the white rectangle, and I noticed he, at least, was careful not to touch me. He had already turned away to call the next students, and I turned the rectangle over in my hands, studying it. A map of campus was imprinted on one side beside circular symbols, and it was hard and cool to the touch. The other side held the school emblem, the golden hexagon with the creation symbol inside. Come on, Jez, Iblis/Kinsey said. I lifted my eyes and realized she'd taken several steps toward the exit. What is this thing? I asked, following her. She walked faster, as if eager to leave the manifestation hall. Looks like some kind of card. She turned it over in her hands. It says GAA on it and has our room number. Maybe it's like a student ID card. It says GAA? I murmured, studying the symbols while hurrying to keep up with her. She stopped and gave me a longer look. Can you read? I shook my head. I never learned. The Forsaken did not read. Even Fallen who learned to read on Earth lost the ability to distinguish between the symbols in Sheol. Her eyes went wide. You must have had a very sheltered life. You could say that. I was beginning to get a sense of what my learning curve would be. Not only did I have to keep up with the angels and their studies, I needed to quickly educate myself on Earth life, as everything at GAA was tailored to imitate the mortal experience the angels had just left behind. I felt sweat break out along my hairline, a physical reaction I knew was due to stress and not outside conditions. I had never sweat before. My body, though only a spirit, was created after the likeness of mortality, with ichor instead of blood running through my veins. I was as capable of any body function as a physical being, but I didn't know what that meant. Not really. I'd never had the need to experience most body functions, including sweating. Iblis/Kinsey led the way, as if she had already memorized the campus. 3 multi-story buildings with windows on every floor surrounded the X-shaped building, which I realized must be the administration building. "Are those the dorms?" I asked, pointing. "Yes." In front of each dorm was a plaque, again with large letters on it. I assumed it must announce the names. "This one's ours," she said, heading to the one on the far left. I recognized the GAA symbol on the plaque, but the symbols beside it were unfamiliar. I paused to trace my fingers over them, wishing I could decipher them through touch. "How did you discover you're an empatia?" she asked, waiting for me to join her on the sidewalk. I left the plaque and pressed my lips together. The boy next to me. I saw him ringed in shades of red and gray. "Me too. I mean, something similar. I saw colors leaping around the girl, who had actually become a squirrel, beside me. I wonder what the colors mean. That boy, Daniel, he made fire come out of his hair. So they said that makes him an empatia also." She pulled open a rectangular door and we both stepped inside the building. Inside stretched a hallway lined with doors. A staircase beside me indicated more hallways and doors above us. The floor and walls were a soft gray, almost white, the doors a light blue. The whole effect was ethereal, as if we'd stepped out into a hallway in the clouds. "We got so lucky being on the first floor. We won't have to climb the stairs every day." Iblis/Kinsey counted 2 doors and paused in front of the room. The tall doors had ornate wooden panels, but there was no handle, nothing to indicate how to open it. She pulled out her card and waved it at the door. She frowned and pressed it against the decorated wood. "What are you doing?" I watched her curiously. "I'm trying to open the door. I'm sure this card works like a key or something, but I can't figure out how to get it in." She pushed the card into the crack between the door and the wall. Nothing happened. She repositioned herself and pressed her hand against the wood as she studied it. Suddenly, the door swung inward and she gasped and jumped back. "What happened?" I asked. She narrowed her eyes. "Apparently, we just have to touch the door. How do we close it?" She took a step back into the hallway, and the door swung our direction, closing in front of us. She gestured at me. "You try it." I stepped forward, hesitant, and pressed my hand to the wood. Again, the door swung into the room. "Ha!" she crowed. "How neat is that? Just our touch opens the door." "Neat," I echoed. "Maybe we'll want to climb the stairs for exercise." She looked thoughtful as she stepped into the room. "Or do we even need to worry about physical fitness anymore?" I followed her and did a little spin, taking in the 2 beds, each beside a desk with a wardrobe against the wall. A bookshelf against the far wall separated the beds. One window lit the room from above the bookshelf. "This must be the bathroom." Kinsey/Iblis disappeared into an adjoining room. "That's odd. There's no toilet or shower, just a sink and a mirror." "Oh!" She came back out, her eyebrows raised. "We don't need toilets anymore, do we?" Toilet. The word meant nothing to me, but I was perturbed by one thing. "What should I call you?" I couldn't keep thinking of both of her names in my head. The girl paused, tilting her head so the light brown hair cascaded to the side, an uncertain expression passing over her eyes. "I guess I'm not Kinsey anymore. I'm Iblis." She sighed. They told me that was my name before I was born, that Kinsey was only my Earth name. I nodded. This was true. Her mortal parents had named her after their own desires, making her more of a creation after themselves by giving her a mortal name. Not that they could have known her spirit name. So, Iblis, then? She chewed on her lower lip. I hope I start to remember this place. Right now, it feels so foreign. Her eyes welled up with tears. I just want to go home to my mom. That feeling swelled in my chest again, a strange desire to help her, to ease her pain. Was it because she was an empatia? Was she pushing her feelings onto me? Things will be fine here. It's just going to take time. I hoped the sentiment applied to myself as well. I sat down on the bed, running my fingers over the soft coverings, and considered the bench I'd had in Sheol. Resting wasn't really a thing in the lower kingdom. When I did grow too weary, or too wasted to fulfill an order, I was allowed to sit on the bench. But it never rejuvenated me. I required the essence of a mortal to do that. Not now. I would have to find another way to get my nourishment. Barakiel had told me I wouldn't have the same yearnings and cravings here, that the light would counteract them. I hadn't believed him until now, when I realized I wasn't aching with need. I've never had a bed before, I said softly. What was that? Iblis tilted her head. I hadn't meant to speak out loud. It would lead to questions about my life before here, where I was kept locked and concealed in the darkness, except when needed to carry out a command. Until Hasatan let me out and told me why I was created. Then he gave me a single command and let me loose. And somehow, through all that, I ended up here, an unheard of impossibility, a forsaken at GAA.